right now. So we're ready for that. So with that, we're excited that you're here, and we're excited to have Sue Knott, and she is with Minnesota Agriculture in the Classroom. Now, Sue, if I'm remembering right, it was about 10 years ago. This would have been a very similar situation to you, because about 10 years ago, Minnesota would have hosted the National Agriculture in the Classroom Conference, and you would have rushed into a building after just getting off of a tour bus to do a presentation. And that's what you did today. So Sue actually was leading a group of teachers with her staff across the state of Minnesota, highlighting agriculture earlier today, and she's back in time to share with you. So Sue is she is originally from a family farm in southwestern Minnesota. She has FFA 4-H and raises crops and livestock before she earned her ag ed degree. She was a high school ag ed teacher for 9 years before joining Minnesota Ag in the Classroom as their education specialist. A unique part about Sue's program is she's actually housed at the State Department of Agriculture. So a number of us are with Farm Bureau or Extension. Sue's with the State Department of Agriculture. So with that, Sue, I'm going to turn the screen over to you, and welcome and thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Kevin. That's a great introduction. I am actually in our Minnesota Department of Agriculture office building right now. So yeah, and we did a great teacher tour earlier today, and I am excited to jump on and interact with all of you. So I'm going to share my screen. Please speak up in the chat, or Kevin, let me know if anything goes awry with our technology today. But I am here
Sue,
to
your everything is showing. There is no chat. It'll be Q&A. I will stop you if I get a Q&A, just so you know. They won't chat with you. Yep.
Yes, thanks, Kevin, for correcting me there. So I am here to tell you about our Minnesota Harvest of the Month program, which is brand new. We piloted this in this past school year, 21-22, and are getting ready to open it up and launch it statewide. So we're still in the very beginning stages, but it's super exciting. So I wanted to share with you guys what we have going on. So here's the agenda for the next 45 minutes. I want to give you a little background about our Minnesota Harvest of the Month program. And you guys involved in education know if you don't have an acronym, you really don't matter. So our acronym for Harvest of the Month is HOTM. So you'll see that abbreviation in a couple of these slides. Then we'll talk about food, which is at the heart of this program. And then finally, community, cafeteria, and classroom connections. That's really what the goal is of Harvest of the Month. And then some time to think about how this might apply to you and your state and what you're doing. So here I want to start with your food story. I'm going to ask all of you to think about food right now, and we're going to color code it. So for example, I thought of red. Red is one of my favorite colors, and a food, when I think of red, the first food I think about is strawberries. And in Minnesota, I was lucky to grow up right down the road from the Schumacher, that was their last name, the Schumacher family berry farm. So I have fond memories of going there and picking strawberries and getting to eat them right out of the field, and also going home and making strawberry jam and strawberry sauce and all those sorts of things. So I asked my sister, who actually got to go home to my parents' farm and help pick strawberries. I think this was from last summer, but I knew she had a video. So I'm going to play this video. It's only like 20 seconds. It's not a super awesome produced video, but it has my mom and my sister, and it makes me laugh. So I'm going to play it for you guys. Hopefully you'll laugh too.
Mom, what you doing? I'm pushing this down. You're not picking strawberries? Oh, I am, but I'm video recording you. What's that? I'm video recording you. Oh, I am.
Okay, like I said, it's not this most super awesome video, but what makes me laugh about this is that my mom has been described by some of her friends and coworkers. She was a 6th grade teacher for about 35 years as unflappable. Nothing really seemed to get her all worked up. She was just kind of a cool, calm cucumber. And this is it. Like my sister video recording her picking strawberries was no big deal. She didn't even pause. She kept picking. So it makes me laugh. And strawberries are how I got there. And you can see the picture of my mom and my sister holding the buckets of strawberries that they picked. So I want you guys all to think about a food. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. About a food story. connected to a color. So if your first name starts with A through E, you get to go with me and pick something red that you've ate, or something that just is related to food that's red is a personal story for you. F through J, if your first name starts with those letters, green is your color. K through O is yellow. Now here's an example. When I think of yellow food, I don't think of actually food. I think of this yellow apron that my grandma wore every Thanksgiving. And on that apron, it said, farming is everybody's bread and butter. And my grandparents lived just right down the road. So we would be some of the first to arrive at their house, and she would be mashing potatoes wearing this yellow apron. So that's my food story that has to do with yellow. So it doesn't have to be the food that's color. That is that color. If your name starts with P through T, orange, and then U through Z is purple. So I'm going to give you like 10 seconds right now. Think of a story. And then if you want to share it, put it in the Q&A. And Kevin, if there's a couple in there that you want to share, that would be fantastic. So just think about a personal food story that has to do with the color listed for your first name. And I hope that a few of you are willing to share in the Q&A.
Well, I'll start. I'm Kevin, and I think of bananas. So it was always a big deal with bananas. So we've got a couple coming in now. There you go.
Thanks, Kevin, for getting it rolling. I have a fun story. We were at a food distribution center today as part of our teacher tour, and they have 4 banana rooms. When they get bananas in different levels of greenness and ripeness, they put them in different rooms and move them around until they can get them the perfect ripeness to send to their grocery stores. So that's a cool banana story. Do you want to share 1 or 2 more that are in the Q&A for us?
Yeah, we got Jada that talks about kiwi fruit, the first time that she ever tried them with her twin girls and the faces they ate. And Katie talking about favorite Buff Orpington, who is yellow on our chicken farm, who provides us eggs to eat and they sell to the community. Trying bananas for the first time. How about this one? Katie tomatoes with her grandmother. Orange. Aren't you glad you attended today's conference? There we go. Gotta love that. That's an outlet.
I love that one.
Chucking corn on the back porch. Connie Cherry Days in Paonia, Colorado. Huh. Their aunt was the Cherry Day queen. Picking carrots right out of the garden. Red cabbage and yellow star fruit. There you go. Got a couple of them.
Those are awesome. Thanks everybody for sharing. And the point is that food is engaging. Like we all have food stories. Your students have food stories. Food, which is clearly connected to agriculture, is a really great tool to get kids excited and interested in science and social studies and language arts and just learning in general. So that's what the Harvest of the Month program really focuses on, is that food and using it as a tool to connect in the classroom as well as the cafeteria and the community. So what is Harvest of the Month in Minnesota to us, or the program is established in our state as a seasonal approach to connect the cafeteria, classroom, and community using locally grown food. So here's a picture of a apple cruncher that was from one of our pilot schools. We did 15 schools tried out our Harvest of the Month program this year. And at the end of the year, those schools shared some words that describe their experience. And you can see the word cloud here. You know, word clouds, if you're familiar, the bigger the word, the more often it was mentioned in our time with these schools. So you can see that the program is about education, public health, local economy, health, nutrition, new recipes, connecting. So lots of cool words associated with our Harvest of the Month program. So here in Minnesota, it's a statewide collaboration, and it's all started when our Minnesota Department of Agriculture submitted a proposal to the USDA for a farm to school grant in partnership with the MDE, the Minnesota Department of Education, and the University of Minnesota Extension. And luckily, this was in 2020, we were awarded that grant that supplied the funding to get Harvest of the Month started here in Minnesota. So we started with an advisory team, really kind of set the groundwork, and then we piloted this last year. And here are the goals that we were functioning under. We wanted to really encourage healthy food choices by increasing students' exposure and knowledge about what's grown in Minnesota and when, and to get them excited to try those foods in the school nutrition, lunch, and breakfast programs. Obviously, we also wanted to support local farmers by having schools purchase those foods from the people here in Minnesota who are growing them. And then finally connecting the 3 C's that are commonly used in the farm to school world: the cafeteria, the classroom, and the community. So our Minnesota Agriculture in the Classroom program, our emphasis was really mostly on the classroom by providing resources and tools for teachers to use, and then also connecting also with community members who might be involved in those education components like parents or classroom helpers or informal educators to really use that food as the tool for engagement in those learning environments. So we encourage the schools that were part of the pilot, and also that as we're getting ready to do the statewide launch, to come up with a team of a community connector, and that could have been anyone in the community that was really interested in the program and supporting the farmers and educators and school nutrition professionals, which made up the other members of the team. So each team had a classroom teacher and or an administrator, like a principal or someone involved in the administrative level, and then also a school nutrition professional. So this could be a lead cook. It also could have been that, if there was a nutrition director, a wellness coordinator, someone who was really involved with the nutritional aspect of what was on their menus and what was being served in the cafeteria. So most of the schools had about 4 people. Some had a few more, 5 or 6, but the goal was to have many people working together. So it wasn't just one person trying to drive this change or to make this program work. And as I said, our Minnesota Ag in the Classroom, our strongest connection was with those teachers and administrators, but also working with the community connectors and the school nutrition professionals. So at the heart of this program is the food. And that's why I had you guys think about the food story. The food is what, was being grown by these farmers, purchased by the school to be used in their cafeteria, and also the heart at what was being done in in the classroom to connect to the cafeteria and in the community. We found out with our advisory team here in Minnesota, we had about a 20-person advisory team, which was a lot of people, that there was many ideas on what foods to feature as part of this Harvest of the Month program. So once again, I have a word cloud here with some of the top ones that were shared, and it was so exciting, but also so overwhelming to try to pick just a few foods to feature. And it came down to our advisory team decided that we really wanted schools to have flexibility. We didn't want to say, okay, everybody is doing apples in September, squash in October, and so on. We wanted to pick about 12 foods. And then if schools wanted to feature one a month for the whole year, great. If they wanted to pick from those 12 and do 3 foods throughout the school year, that's great. One in the fall, one in the winter, and one in the spring, and then, summer, take the summer off. So we wanted to provide lots of different options for schools to fit this program within their activities and what they were doing. But we did want to come up, or the advisory committee decided to select 12 foods that were options for Harvest of the Month. So narrowing down this huge list of foods that grow in Minnesota to just 12 was a very big deal. So we came up with this 4 criteria that helped us narrow the list and make the final 12 selection. So first of all, is the food school friendly? Is it something easy to serve and prepare? Is it something that kids would be excited to learn and teachers would be excited to use in their curriculum? So just it was friendly to all school components. Secondly, is it farmer friendly? Can it be grown in Minnesota easily? Can farmers produce it efficiently and also economically, that they could sell it to the school at a price that was good for the school as well as good for the farmer? The third item, or the third criteria, is did the food have a track record? Which apples are an example in Minnesota. Like apples are a food that's grown in Minnesota and served in a lot of schools. It's easy to grow, easy to use. So it has a track record of being successful and kids like it. So that was kind of an either or. Is it have a track record like apples, or is it something new and exciting? So jicama was an example that several of our advisory team members said that it's exciting, it's different, it's something that kids haven't tried, it's fun to say. So we wanted this third criteria for foods that either have been successful or that are new and exciting. And then finally, the last criteria, does the food have some sort of cultural connection or a Minnesota story where it would tie in really well to social studies and Minnesota history and all of those parts of our state that we are proud of? So with those 4 criteria in mind, we narrowed down to 12. So these are our starting 12 that we piloted 6 of them last year during our pilot 6 foods. And now with our launch this fall, we're gonna highlight all 12. So you can see the picture there and then all of them listed: sweet corn, dairy, melon, squash, beef, beans, apples, peppers, greens, wild rice, poultry, and potatoes. So we're going to do a few activities or focus on greens because excuse me, for each of these 12 foods, we put together a suite of resources for the schools to use in the Harvest of the Month program. And I didn't think I had time to share all 12. So I'm just going to focus on greens and just imagine that having these same resources for each of the 12 foods is what our program is about. So each of the foods, greens, for example, you as an educator or people participating in Harvest of the Month would have access or do have access to lesson plans that are standards aligned. So science and social studies were our two big areas, but also health and nutrition, as well as quick and easy activities that aren't maybe a quick or not a complete lesson plan, but just a kind of a quick and easy thing to do with the food in focus. Then we provided marketing materials for each of these foods. So posters, static clings to be used on like salad bars or in windows, stickers, which were the huge highlight of the pilot, as well as videos. And then for the culinary or the food service folks and procurement, so getting that food, there's recipes, there's some guidance for purchasing from local farmers, some taste test guides, other local food tracker pieces that they can use. And then finally, for the connecting with the community, we provide social media ideas and templates, as well as newsletter or content that schools could use in newsletters that they provide to the community. And we also are working on a website that's going to launch when we launch with a statewide launch here in just a couple weeks. So here's the example for greens. So you can see right up here is a fact sheet. We have this recipe card. So this is the front and the back. It has the recipe for this green lava kale salad. Here's the two posters. So there's one, this is for the middle and high school, the one that says fresh, healthy, and crisp. And then this one with the enjoy greens, your brain will thank you is for elementary students. Here's that cling that would go on a salad bar in the window. Here's a sticker. And then here were those community items. So a newsletter content that I had to cut off, and then the social media stuff. So we have these resources for each of those 12 foods that were about 2 or 3 slides previous. So I want to talk through the greens, for example, on how the classroom, community, and cafeteria, different elements or different things that we tried to provide or that some schools did in those 3 C areas of Harvest of the Month and Farm to School. So first of all, in the community, we created videos where we tried to highlight lots of different farmers in Minnesota, as well as the things that they're growing. So I'm going to take this greens one is about 3 minutes long. I'm going to have you guys watch it. And hopefully it'll give some ideas of how we're trying to help connect to the community, as well as the foods that might be served in the cafeteria. So I'm going to play this, and hopefully you'll all hear it well.
It's green and it goes in smoothies.
Green and goes in smoothies. Grapes?
No! And grapes do go in smoothies.
It's leafy greens. They grow in Minnesota, and they're part of your school lunch. Let's go talk to a farmer.
Hi, I'm Aaron. Do you recognize this?
No.
I didn't really either. This is collard green, which, do you ever eat lettuce? This is like a really thick lettuce, feel it, that you can cook with.
Oh.
I think it's kind of like spinach. Do you like spinach?
Mom puts in mine can smoothie, but then we don't taste it.
What do you taste?
Fruit.
Oh, they're just hidden.
Hi, my name is Naima. I'm a farmer. Eat more greens. Farming here this year at Horn Towers, it allowed me to do varieties of different leafy greens that the community is familiar with, such as the kale, the Swiss chard. Especially my community, East African, they love Swiss chard, and we'll usually cook our meals slow and saute them. And the most exciting part for me is making kale chips with my 2 boys. My favorite part is harvesting. I like to harvest with my hands. I usually don't use tools. Well, in this section, I'm growing different varieties. I got some kale, collard greens, Swiss chard. When it gets to this size, I love to harvest right away so that the babies come up in a decent size too. So usually I start from the bottom, but this time we're just gonna start from the middle and just harvest around and work towards the bottom. So it's really important when you're harvesting leafy greens that you don't pull the root and pull the plant. You just snap them. You can hear the sound, and that's when you know you've got it, and you can easily, gently just pull it out, and you just build out this beautiful bouquet. I like the smell of chard. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like, I don't know, just like a fresh produce. Yeah, that just fresh, you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't even know how to describe it, but earthy, I like that.
Let's try some collard greens.
There you go. And then to do some stabbing. You can do it with a fork or your hands, whatever you want to do.
Hands.
Okay. There's two parts of this. So you can hear. You know what?
Is it bacon?
Ah, I think I tasted this before.
I have no idea what this is. It
You wanna try
tastes seaweed.
So it tastes like seaweed?
No. Ew.
That's new for you? I thought you said you love vegetables.
Broccoli. This is not broccoli. I don't know what this is. Is this spinach?
It's collard greens.
Collard greens. That's good.
Look for Minnesota greens in your school lunch this month. What's your favorite way to eat leafy greens?
Okay, so like I said, we have these videos for each of the 12 foods. And, you know, our goal was to really feature the food as well as the people who grow it and as well as kids trying it out. And, you know, initially we're like, oh, we don't want to have kids who like say they don't like it or ew, but we did want it to be authentic. So when we tried these videos out in our pilot schools, the kids thought that that was really like that was their favorite part, is that not everybody loved the food, but they all tried it. And it really, I think, made it seem like, okay, let's go try this. So the goals of these videos was, like I said, to inspire kids, but also to connect with farmers in our Minnesota community that are growing these foods that are part of Harvest of the Month. Additionally, some community connections that several schools tried was giving out kits for growing greens. So you can see there's some kits that they purchased or that they put together, and then families could bring them home, and kids could grow greens, and their families could grow them and use that as a connecting point to what was happening in school. So that's the C community, or the community. The first C, whoops, that's not what I meant to do. The second C is cafeteria. So these greens, a variety of different greens, were served in the cafeteria of our pilot schools. And you can see here's an example of that cling that was used on the salad bar. And here's a school. This was a really fun example of connecting the farmer to the cafeteria. Right here, this woman, her name was Rachel, and she grew spinach on her farm, was just a few miles down the road from this particular school. So they highlighted her. They had her come in and visit with the kids at lunch and tell them about how she grew the spinach and the things that she liked about how it tasted and how it looked. And then the kids tried it with her. So that was a really cool connection to the cafeteria for this greens. And then finally, not finally, but also within the cafeteria is different recipes and different ways to prepare these different Harvest of the Month items were tried out by schools. So Minneapolis Public Schools is one of our largest districts here in Minnesota, and they had a recipe for a kale salad that they've been using a couple, I don't know, for multiple years. They sourced the kale from a local grower, Naima, who was in the video. She provides some of the kale, but she doesn't provide enough for the whole district. So they source it from a couple different places, but they prepared this salad and they asked the kids to help them name it. So there was a few different, I think there was 3 or 4 different options that kids voted by putting like it was a green little, like almost like a poker chip in different bags or different cups depending on the cafeteria. And the green lava kale salad was the winner. And then this was a recipe that we featured too. So we printed, in cardstock, these recipe cards that we provided to the schools who are participating in Harvest Month that they can hand out and use in their cafeterias as well. So community, cafeteria, finally the classroom. And this is where our Minnesota Ag in the Classroom program, this was our really our strongest connection or our contribution to Harvest of the Month. So we really tried to provide lesson plans and things that could be easily done in classrooms that would connect this food that the kids were eating in their cafeteria that was grown by local farmers. So the greens example listed right here, these are 2 3rd grade science standards in Minnesota, our science academic standards. And you can see they have to do with parts of plant structures as well as common groups and different characteristics. So we put together 3 of the resources that schools had access to was a Kahoot game, which we're actually going to play in just a second, Luscious Leaves investigation lesson plan, and also some instructions or yeah, I guess instructions for growing microgreens. And this is a picture of one of the schools that was growing microgreens in a couple different classrooms. And microgreens are super easy to grow. You just kind of sprinkle the seeds on top of soil and they grow really fast. So within a week, these students were able to pick the little, tiny microgreens and eat them and see if they were something that they liked and if the flavors resonated with their taste buds. And if they didn't, that was okay, but at least they tried them. So these were the 3 educational resources that we provided for the leafy greens food for Harvest of the Month. So I want to show you the lesson plan, and this is one from our Ag in the Classroom curriculum matrix. So hopefully you're looking at the curriculum matrix right now. I'm assuming or I'm guessing that many of you are familiar with the curriculum matrix that our National Ag in the Classroom organization has available free for you to use. This is on our Minnesota website, so you can see Minnesota Agriculture in the Classroom. And I guess I forgot that most of you are not from Minnesota, so I'm just going to go to the national matrix just so you can see we're not just focused on Minnesota. So here's a curriculum matrix there. And if you are not familiar with the curriculum matrix, prepare to have your mind blown. This is a searchable database of lesson plans that are all agriculture themed, obviously, but connected to academic standards. So let's say I wanted to do something on leaves. So I'm going to search both lessons and companion resources. And there's 4 lesson plans. So the Luscious Leaves is the one that we found fits with those Minnesota academic standards and ties to the leafy greens that were part of our Harvest of the Month. So if you haven't checked out these lesson plans in the curriculum matrix, please do, but they're free and really fast and easy to find. But all of them have the grade level, the purpose, the time, the material. So this one has a tasty investigation activity sheet. And this is what a lot of our classrooms, they had different, whatever kinds of greens they could find or that they were being served in their cafeteria, they would have students look at them, measure them, make observations about color, texture, smell, and taste. And so this was a way to look at those different structures in the plant, that's the connection to the standard, and also do a little thinking about what they might be interested in eating. So there's multiple different activities to this lesson, and teachers tried out all of them to great success in their classrooms. So these curriculum matrix lesson plans also at the very bottom have the educational standards. So agriculture literacy outcome, that's the connection to agriculture, but right here is the content standards. So right here has a connection to a health standard and then also Common Core. So there's some reading, speaking, listening, writing, and math connections here. And like I said, in Minnesota, it also connects to our science, those science standards. So I'm going to close this. Yes, and here we are back at my slides. And another part of this, like I said, was we put together just a really quick Kahoot, and I think we have enough time. So I'm going to have you guys play this. I should link it right to our Kahoot game. So if you are not familiar with Kahoot, this is set up just as a multiple choice game, and you get points for how quickly you answer, but then also how quickly you answer and also if you're correct. I was trying to multitask right there and I lost my train of thought. So we're going to play in classic mode, and right here it's going to come up. You need to go to www.kahoot.it. You can see it right there, and this is the game pin. So on your smartphone, on a tablet, on your laptop, on your desktop, whatever device you have. Oh, wow, you guys are fast. Okay, so you can see lots of people are joining. You can use your real name, or if you want to make up a name, that's fine too. But this just has a few questions, and it's about naming different greens that would potentially be served in the cafeteria or used for that luscious leaf activity that I just showed you. So, wow, we have a lot of people, which is awesome. I'll wait just a couple more seconds and then we'll get started. And as I said before, you'll get points for having the correct answer, but also for how quickly you enter it in. So speed is important and accuracy as well. So we're going to get started. If you're still joining, go for it. You can join, I think, in the middle or as we get going. So here we go. Leafy greens. First one is this one. What is this? You have 20 seconds to answer. All right, bok choy, look at you. 34 of you answered correctly. So nice work. That is correct. We'll see who was fast. Cindy in IA. Cindy, I'm guessing maybe from Iowa. Good for you. Nova, Lee, E, and Lenore are on the top scoreboard too. Okay, first one, bok choy. Second one, I'll give you a hint, is not bok choy. What is this? This is one of my favorites to grow. All right, this one is a little trickier. Not quite as many people got it correct, but it is chard. There's a few different varieties of chard. This one sometimes is called rainbow chard here in Minnesota, but it is chard. It has kind of a thicker leaf that is used in a lot of different salad mixes. So Lee moves up, Nova still in second place, and Jay Parker joins the top 5. Nice work. All right, next, green. You'll see the picture here. All right, congratulations if you said arugula. And this one has a really unique leaf shape and an edge to it. And also the flavor, if you haven't tasted arugula, it's a little peppery, and most kids describe it that way, but can add a little punch to some salad mixes. So E moves into the top, and we've joined by K and M in the top 5. Nice work. All right, this one might be a little tricky. I don't know. It is beet greens. Maybe the red on the leaf veins gave it away, but congrats those of you who selected beet greens. All right, 3 players just hit an answer streak of 3. Congrats, and Kay moves to the top. We got a few more people in our top 5. All right, I think this is the last one. What leafy green is this? And this picture was actually submitted or taken at one of our school gardens, or one of the schools that was part of the Harvest of the Month pilot that was growing this in their school garden, and it looks awesome. All right, butter crunch lettuce, congrats. Those 36 of you got that correct. Nice job. So let's see who our top 3 are. In third is Beth L. Congratulations, Beth. Second, Kay, like it. And our first place, a late surge by Lenore. Awesome. Thank you guys for playing. So the goal, of, that Kahoot is just to get kids excited and interested, engaged with the foods that they can be using in their classroom to learn, as well as eating in their cafeteria, and that are grown by local farmers here in Minnesota. So that's, like I said, where our Minnesota Ag in the Classroom program really found our connection to Farm to School and Harvest of the Month here in Minnesota. So, here we go. So I should have changed the title of this because we can't really think pair share here in this virtual world. But I know many of you are not from Minnesota, but in your state, you maybe already have a Harvest of the Month program in action, or maybe you have a strong Farm to School program that Harvest of the Month would be a great addition to that. Or maybe there's nothing really in existence. So here are 4 questions that I would like you just to ponder for a moment. So first of all, think about foods, because like I said, the food is at the heart of this program. What's grown in your state that is maybe unique? Maybe you're the leading producer of tart cherries. I think that's Utah. Or maybe wild rice is a big deal in Minnesota. So maybe there's something that has a cool cultural connection. So think about foods that are grown in your state and how, that they would be fun to showcase in the classroom as well as the cafeteria. The second question to think about is, does Harvest of the Month or Farm to School exist in your state? And if it does, is there a way that you could connect and be part of it? Because I found like being part of this Harvest of the Month pilot exposed me to so many new people and schools and teachers and farmers. It was really, really fun. The third thing is if you are part of a school, as an educator, as a teacher, who in your school and your community could you get to be part of your team to get Harvest of the Month rolling if you think it's something that would really work? So is there an awesome, a co-teacher, an administrator? Is there a community member? Is there farmers? Is there a really enthusiastic school nutrition professional? So think about those people. And then, the fourth one is, what's a small step that you could take to get something like Harvest of the Month or similar or whatever, an element of it started in your school or community? So why don't you take a couple minutes, if you have some thoughts, put them in the Q&A and we'll look at them. So just to get you thinking, maybe you've looked at this in the Q&A, but Katie in Oklahoma says we have Harvest of the Month posters in Oklahoma, but to her knowledge, it's just the posters. It looks like in Minnesota, we had other resources. So yeah, Katie, if you have the posters already, that's a great starting point. Maybe there's some really, quick and easy to do activities for classrooms that you could add to that, or maybe stickers. You guys, stickers were the huge hit at all of the, we did 15 different pilot schools and they all loved the stickers. So maybe you want to add stickers to the mix, Katie. But if you have, I maybe stopped sharing my screen too quick. I'm going to share this slide again. If you want.
Sue, what about the pictures seem to be that 2nd through 4th grade level? I mean, they seem to be elementary students. Have you tried this in junior high and high school?
Yeah, Kevin, thanks for bringing that up. The pictures that schools shared were very elementary focused. And in our 15 pilot schools, that's where a lot of the schools chose to start. However, in 3 schools, there was a really great connection to some of the FACS programs in the high school. One school, Becker High School, they did, Becker, Minnesota is a town. They did a wild rice challenge where they had 3 different FACS classes use wild rice to develop recipes. And then the students voted. They did taste tests in the cafeteria. The students voted, and the one that they liked the best was served district wide. So that was super cool. Another high school FACS program they were doing some research on getting rid of milk cartons in their cafeteria and instead serving bulk milk. So big, machines where students would come up with a glass and fill it in the machine. That's how they would get their milk, because the cartons it was hard to get them. There were supply chain issues, plus there was a lot of waste. Anyway, those FACS classes really talked to the school board and really convinced, and I think there was 3 different cafeterias that transitioned to bulk milk machines over cartons. So yeah, Kevin, that's a great question. We did have a majority of the schools that piloted focused on elementary with hopes to expand K-12, but there were some really cool connections with those FACS classes. And I think agriculture classes also could connect, and even schools that have like a school garden program, that could be a great connection as well.
I'm gonna pull out a couple of the questions here, Sue. The one from Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has Harvest of the Month broken down by months. Not seeing lesson plans, but lots of downloadable resources. So, Sue, can you put a plug in again for the Matrix? The craziness of the variety and the scope and sequence that you find on lessons there.
Yeah, I would love to. Thanks, Kevin, for bringing that up. The matrix that I showed you, you could search anything. So you could put apples in there and find lesson plans that deal with apples. And some states do have like their Harvest of the Month programs, like Oregon, for example. I check out their website a couple times. They have, connections, classroom connections built into Harvest of the Month, but many do not. So that matrix is a really great tool where you can search by food, by grade level, by subject area, and find some pieces that can be used. You know what? Well, are we able to share that link, Tessa, maybe if you want to drop it in the Q&A or in the chat? I forget if we have that option. Can we use
link? I'm sorry, which link?
To the curriculum matrix.
The matrix, yeah. Deborah did that, and that'll be on the link that they share at the end. We'll make sure that they have that again. But just the tie-in for folks that are asking about that, might be hard to find an okra lesson. I'm just going to tell you, okra might be a little tough, but how do you take a leafy green and talk about okra? How do you talk about any kind of plant, you know? So what are the different types and where do they come from? So I just, don't, you might not find something on everything, but there's going to be lots of stuff that you can rip off and modify and duplicate and see where it comes from. So that was another one. But Georgia has Harvest of the Month. Always looking to see what other states do. That's another popular one. And some of you have done a really good job of cruising. We know, as a state contact, we know when other states are looking at our websites, and when you send us questions. Get on Minnesota's. You want to talk about something, reach out to Sue. Give her a day or so to answer. She'll do it. We'll do that in Illinois. Jessica will do it from Oregon. Judy will do it from California. Everybody will help, and I think you'll see lots of stuff. So pop-up museum. Here's a cool one. A pop-up museum, food for thought. Ties into Native Americans and pilgrims, covers corn, cranberries, pears, peaches, and a variety of apples. That's very cool. So
that is very cool.
Seeds. Yeah, pumpkin seeds to see who can do that and grow the best pumpkin and where it comes from. Lots of cool pumpkin activities out there. Trust me, there are tons of pumpkin activities out there. So
I will say, Kevin, from the pop-up museum and food for thought connecting to Native Americans, that was a big tool, or that was a way that a lot of our teachers engaged with the foods as well, connecting to the Native Americans. Like here in Minnesota, the Dakota and the Ojibwe have strong connections and historical significance. So many of the foods, especially like wild rice and pumpkins, were used as a way to introduce and connect to those first growers of those foods in our state. So that's thank you for bringing that up, because that's a great example of how food can be a connection to those historical components as well. So
additionally, lots of great garden activities. Any garden activity, you're probably going to find some of those more specialty crops, specialty foods from garden activities as well. So don't think just because you searched okra you're not going to do there. Broaden your reach a little bit and include gardens and other things. So yeah.
And we also had a few teachers that put together or worked with their media centers and libraries to put together book displays of the foods that were being featured in the cafeteria in the classroom. So I know, Kevin, you're a book expert, but there was a bunch of books about pumpkins and that were featured in different libraries and classrooms in the fall. Apples also, there's some great books. So the book connection, we're working on putting together like a list of books for each food as well. But I know literacy and reading skills are so important at elementary level. So this could be another tie and another motivating factor to get kids to read some books focused on the different foods that are being featured in their community classrooms and cafeterias.
We also find that our cafeteria workers, there's a line. There's always a line, and what do they look at? So the posters are one thing, but from our calendar, we have a classroom calendar in Illinois. Our facts, we find some cafeterias print out our facts on bigger things, and then they have a quiz at the end of the month. Did you read the facts? Those type of things. So kind of a cafeteria Jeopardy using our materials. So same type of thing.
Yeah, I like that idea. So let me think. I don't have, that's the end. I don't have any more information that I had prepared to share. So I'm curious if there's additional questions or comments, or if there's any. Let's do this. Think about your state that you are from. And if you could start with one Harvest of the Month food, what would it be? Put that in the Q&A. I'm curious of who we have, where you're from, and what foods you think would be a hit in your state. Ooh, pumpkins in Illinois, Maine potatoes. I like that. Sweet potato. Kathy Lee, what state are you from? Beef, Oklahoma, and that's a good point. Shelly from Oklahoma, who shared beef. Instantly, a lot of people, our mind goes to produce, like fruits and vegetables, but proteins and grains are a really big deal also. In Minnesota, we selected beans, which could be green beans, but it also could be like dry edible beans, like pinto beans or kidney beans. We grow a lot of those in Minnesota too. So Illinois, apples, pumpkins, corn, wheat, soybeans. I know once you start, it's hard to pick just one, but pumpkins in Illinois seems to be the thing. And sweet potatoes in Alabama. Thanks, Kathy Lee, for putting that in. In Georgia, they're featuring spinach. Thank you, spinach in October. Which that was another thing. I don't know if you guys know, but Minnesota gets really cold in the winter, and not very many things are growing. But a couple schools featured tomatoes in the winter time because they would harvest the tomatoes and then make it into tomato sauce and marinara and freeze it, and then they would have this fresh tomato sauce that was frozen but still available in the winter time. So it doesn't have to be. You can be creative when different foods are featured.
Very cool. Very cool. Well,
beets.
Sue,
I like beets.
beets.
I don't know where I don't know where Gail is from, but beets is a good one.
And somebody talked about potatoes. I'm going to link this back to Saratoga. George Crumb invented the potato chip right outside of Saratoga, New York. So even the historic aspect of where did stuff come from and how did we get there? So with that, we've come to the end of our time, folks. You have more questions, check out the Minnesota Ag in the Classroom program. I'll give you a quick hint. You can type agclassroom.org / the 2-letter abbreviation, the 2-letter postal code for any state, and that'll take you right to the state program. So agclassroom.org/MN will take you to the Minnesota Ag in the Classroom program. So Sue, thank you for joining us. I know it feels like you've run a marathon today. Go home. You deserve it. It was a long day. So outside enjoying the farms, inside talking to more teachers about this. With that, folks, we'll be back at the top of the hour for our final session. Thanks again to Sue Knott from Minnesota for joining us, and we'll talk to you all in just a couple of minutes. Thanks, Sue.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Have a great day.
You too.
Kevin, can you stop recording? Because I don't have access.